To the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right?
Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
He picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Coming live at you with the pregame here with my friend Sterling Holmes, Joe Summers. This is the Mile High edition. How high are you guys feeling today about this game in Week 8? Joe, are you're like already clapping? You're ready?
Well, I hope Patrick Mahomes is feeling the Dayquil high from this apparent flu situation that we've got going on. I've been feeling extremely confident all week, snow game or not. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have destroyed the Broncos in the snow before. Fully expect our defense to show out. The big question mark is Mahomes' injury status. Flu status rather. So I hope he's feeling good. I still think we're going to win no matter what. I'm confident. And I think we're going to have a fun little layer of just some extra competition with the snow and with the added elements to it.
Well, hold on, Sterling. I just love that Joe's already off to the races. It's like we opened the horse gate and he was like, snow, flu. I think the only thing he didn't mention was Mike Cloud, Chiefs running back from like 94 or something. I don't know what's going on. Sterling, how are you this afternoon? You're looking good, my man.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I'm one of the few players or people right now who don't have the flu because it seems like it's going around now. I just got news about Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously Patrick Mahomes. It just seems like this is heading around the NFL right now. Hopefully Mahomes doesn't pass the flu on to other people. If so, I guess Sky Moore in this instance would be safe. He wouldn't catch it, so that's good news there. I would expect this is going to be a fun game for the offensive linemen. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Joe Tooney, a little nasty in the middle, right? Like Isaiah Pacheco, a guy who runs hard, the physicality of him. I feel like this bodes very well. Again, I don't know how high scoring of a game it's going to be. I think the weather's going to play a factor. We'll get to the weather in just a moment. But I would expect a little more ground and pound from KC, which I think they're capable of doing. I'm all in on Isaiah Pacheco being a physical beast as well as the offensive line this game.
I want to get to all this in just a second. But first of all, just to give the lay of the land, the Chiefs come in at 6-1. We have the chance to go to 7-1 before a pivotal game against the Miami Dolphins overseas. And then there's your bye. That's you're calling the first half of the season after next week. This is a key next couple weeks, and then you get a rest. The first half has gone about as well as anyone could have expected or hoped. And I want to start here because heading into this stretch, typically what you could call this game is a trap game, a team at which you've won 16 straight against without any real problems. They look worse than ever. They're in the divisional basement. They're talking about selling off parts at the deadline. And then next week is Tyreek Hill, big reunion there, facing his former team for the first time. The Dolphins look electric. It's also overseas. There's going to be a ton of hype once we round this corner. Let me go to you, Sterling, first. Trap game. What are your thoughts on the Chiefs maybe being caught by surprise or this even being that at all?
Yeah, I think trap games in general are a little overstated. I don't firmly believe in that. I think the NFL, you have to win these games. No team is going to all of a sudden be like, oh, we can't believe that they're NFL players. Again, I always like to say this is not an FCS school against a SEC school. It's not against Georgia. They understand, okay? These are AFC West rivals. It was a 19-8 game last time they played just a couple weeks ago. Andy Reid is going to have his dudes ready to roll. Okay, there's no sneaking up on the Kansas City Chiefs if you are an AFC West opponent or, quite frankly, a team that plays in the NFL. So I don't think the Chiefs are overlooking the Broncos in that instance. I don't think they're looking ahead to Germany. They're not looking ahead to playing Tyreek Hill and the explosive Miami Dolphins offense. What they're looking forward to right now is the snow game in Denver. They're going to take it one game at a time, one play at a time. It's cliche, but it's cliche because it's true.
Joe, would you agree with that?
I do. And I would feel more concerned about the trap game potential if our offense didn't look so sloppy in that week 6, 19-8 win. We scored one touchdown on 5 red zone trips. We had that weird Patrick Mahomes ill-fated interception. We had the strange fake field goal that went nowhere. So we were sloppy offensively. The defense was great. If we won like 40-6 or something, then maybe it could be a trap game. But I think this game for the offense in particular is going to be about sharp, efficient play, finishing those drives like we did, scoring 3 touchdowns and 4 red zone trips against the Chargers last week. So I am confident. The only concerns for me kind of come elsewhere, like with Mahomes, sickness and things like that. But I expect them to be fully focused. Taylor Swift just dropped the 1989 album. So Travis Kelce, who looked amazing in his pregame fit, by the way, he's going to be ready to stun out. This is Mahomes' opportunity to get that Jordan flu game narrative. I think they're going to be focused, ready to roll, and make sure that they're firing on all cylinders before the Germany game next week.
Is this a conspiracy that the score of the last game was 19-8? Taylor Swift and it almost there. Anyway, look, let's get to the weather. Sterling, you mentioned the weather. I'd love to go to you there just to get that in our context for everything else we're going to be talking about. What are you hearing about what's going to be happening?
Yeah, it's going to be around 27 degrees, but the feel like number going to be in the very low 20s. Not a ton of wind, quite frankly. 5 miles per hour is what it's supposed to be around game time, mostly cloudy. It snowed a ton prior, but I'm starting to see that it's supposed to not snow itself during the game outside of potential flurries, but there was a decent amount of snow heading into this game. They're going to do everything possible to snow off of the field. That shouldn't be the major issue here, but it's going to be cold. It's not going to be outstanding. Again, it's one of those games where you expect your big guys up front. It's one of those situations where, there's no snow, but you expect to get a push. If Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Joe Tooney are as good as their reputation is, this is their time to shine.
You're saying the offense is going to put on its trench coat and get in the trench. Anyway, Joe, let me go to you on this one. The inactives for the day: Mike Caliendo, offensive line, and then 3 defensive linemen: Neil Farrell, BJ Thompson, and someone else I'm now forgetting. They're all forgettable, basically. Were you surprised by
Malik Herring?
Malik Herring, that was it. Like what was your take on the inactives list? Any thoughts there on who's in and out?
I guess Herring would be a slight surprise, but he saw his snaps cut considerably last week after bringing Minihue back. The big thing for me on the defense is going to be how they plan to fill the void left by Nick Bolton's injury. I know that he's already missed a few games this season, and Tranquil looked excellent. So I want to continue to see that linebacking group fill the void, since we know they're going to have to do it for a couple of months. Up front, those defensive linemen sitting isn't a surprise now that we've got a Minihue in the fold, and I am fired up to see him tee off on Russell Wilson in this snow. I tell you what, Russ has been sacked 20 times already this season. We sacked him 4 times. Minihue looked awesome last week. I don't really see how the Broncos are going to score, barring some kind of catastrophic turnover luck or something like that. So I'm excited to see them fill that void, especially for a guy that likes to throw to his running backs like Russell Wilson does. And then up front, it's just going to be keep getting a Minihue in there so I can start salivating about what this pass rush will be come playoff time.
Yeah, if you look at the Broncos inactives, it's J.L. Skinner, Thomas Nkoum, Alex Forsyth, Keandre Coburn, former Chief, and then Elijah Garcia. I'm with you when it comes to Drew Tranquil. He should be solid. If Russell Wilson is going to dump down, Drew Tranquil is one of the best at reading that. That is where he thrives. But Charles Minihue. Okay, Russell Wilson is not a tall quarterback. He was getting the ball knocked down a ton a couple weeks ago prior to a 6'6" dude joining the fold for the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I mean, it's a basketball move for Russell Wilson. It's going to be fake a pass, make a pass. I mean, if he does not get out of the pocket, if he stays in the pocket, good luck. That ball is getting batted down 3, 4, 5 times a game. George Karlaftis is starting to get pretty solid. George Karswadis, if you will. I mean, quite frankly, this Chiefs defensive line, I think, should wreak havoc on the Broncos O-line as well as Russell Wilson.
We're talking about Nick Bolton's absence here, and I want to dive into that in a couple ways here before the game. Last time we saw these teams match up, McLaughlin had no problem at all gashing the Chiefs on several bigger runs, certainly for some first downs. The defense overall played very, very well, but Denver was able to run the ball. When you lose your best, run stopper in the second level and your best overall tackler, the Chiefs' run defense is going to be more suspect going forward. There's no way around it with the loss of Nick Bolton. In a game like this where we're talking about running the football and being in the trenches more and going that route, what are your thoughts on like some of the things the Chiefs have to do to make up for that, especially in a game like this?
Well, I mean, look, McLaughlin had a great game in week 6, and the Broncos scored 8 points, and the 8 came on a ridiculous Cortland Sutton catch that I don't see him replicating all that often. So honestly, I don't really care if they run the ball effectively on us, because we showed an ability in that first game to sustain long drives, provided that Mahomes isn't like 25% of himself, as long as he can play to some normal type of capacity. I think that the Broncos are going to have to win by throwing the ball ultimately, even if they have a good first half on the ground. And at that point, I mean, Russell Wilson had 94 passing yards against us last week. He hasn't eclipsed 200 in 3 straight weeks. I expect the Broncos to score sub 14 points again, even if McLaughlin or Javonte Williams or one of those guys has a nice day. I think Spags will be able to kind of tee up some of the run stopping schemes and try to force Russ to beat him downfield. I don't think he'll be able to. So if McLaughlin wants to rip off 60 rushing yards again, be my guest. I don't think it's going to matter on the scoreboard.
I think Sunshine Equestrian puts it very eloquently here. The donkeys suck. I mean, they suck offensively.
Yeah.
I get it, AFC West and 2 times in 3 weeks. That is the only reason why I think this has any chance of being close. Yeah. Like, seriously, 2 times in 3 weeks. The Chiefs are going for 17 straight. There's all this talk about Kelsey and his flying all over the country before this game and Mahomes with the flu. Like, it's like all of these negatives against Kansas City, and I still think the Chiefs will win by 2 scores. You know, and I'm typically the I don't want to say pessimist, the realist in this group.
Conservative at times, yeah.
I'm typically more conservative in regards to, the Chiefs aren't going to blow this team out. That's not how they handle their business. I'm not saying the Chiefs win by 30, but the longer the season's gone on, the Chiefs have started to improve us, especially offensively. The Broncos are who they are. They're not good. They're not good. I'm just not worried about this game. Again, it's not a trap game because Andy Reid, it can be a trap game for the media. Like, we can talk about it. The players don't think of it that way. So I'm very excited to sit back, crack open a cold one, and watch this game.
I want to move to the offensive side here in just a second. But I said I wanted to tackle Nick Bolton's absence in a couple ways, and here's this. The Chiefs already have 1 roster spot open with the loss of Justin Ross to the commissioner's exemption list after his arrest. And now he's just kind of there in limbo, if you will. Bolton moved to IR yesterday. The Chiefs have not made a subsequent roster move. I believe there's 2 spots open. The Chiefs came into today with 51 guys, and they're like, do we need to make a move, or can we just roll over Denver again? They're basically saying, let's roll over Denver and then figure out how to fill these other holes. So, one, I love the swagger from the front office there, if we can read into it, which I totally am. But what are you thinking with these 2 roster spots? Do you think that in the light of the trade deadline coming, something going on, they've created a room to make something work there? I know we got a game coming up here. This isn't like the trade deadline pregame, but just curious what you make of having 2 roster spots. Joe.
I think that Veach is likely to be active over the next couple of days prior to the deadline. I'm not quite sure where he might bring help in. It seems like a late round pick swap for somebody to kind of fill in for a depth piece would be my guess. I don't think any major type of move is going to come. I think the biggest move that we would have made would be bringing McCole back. But having it, I don't think Veach is worried. I think he's just trying to stay flexible over the next couple of days.
Yeah. Sterling?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, obviously Frank Clark was the obvious one. He's signed with Seattle. I wanted to make sure it was official. He did sign with Seattle officially for 1 year, $1.165 million. Yeah, I see what Phantom says in the chat, and I think it's probably a pretty astute observation here. You fill his roster spots during the bye week. And obviously, eventually, right, you're going to have to let one spot come open whenever Nick Bolton returns from the IR, if I'm not mistaken, since that does not count against. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, curious. Let's go to the offensive side. We talked about McCole Hardman earlier. Last week he got some limited snaps. Now that he's been back a little bit longer, Sterling, I'll go to you first on this one. We saw him as the returner last week with some additional offensive snaps. What do you think we're going to see this week? Do you like him a little bit more now that he's kind of settled back in?
I do, but I'm not expecting him to be like the guy offensively. I'm not expecting him to be a even starter offensively. Rashee Rice is going to be the guy moving forward. Rashee Rice, especially in the slot, will be the guy moving forward. That leaves who's on the outside, MVS. We know his role is pretty much set in stone for some reason. And then on the other side, well, with Justin Watson still being injured, what do you have? You have either McCole Hardman, who actually thrives best in the slot. He's not taking snaps away from Rashee Rice, at least we hope not, and that leaves Sky Moore. So the Chiefs right now have a lot of guys who thrive in the slot because, quite frankly, that's where Sky Moore probably would play best as well. They're just trying to force someone else on the outside. It's an interesting conundrum the Chiefs currently are posed with. They have so much depth at wide receiver, so many wide receiver threes, yet they all somewhat play a similar type of role on this team. I expect McCole Hardman to play, 15 snaps offensively? Does that seem about right to you, fellas? 15 snaps?
Sure.
Yeah, so he had 11 last week, but we talked about it in the pregame last week. I think the biggest impact for him is going to come in the red zone. Of his 11 snaps, he had 2 red zone targets last week. He's consistently been among the team leaders in red zone targets. Given that we scored 1 touchdown and 5 red zone trips in week 6, I think he's going to be decently involved on some of those gadgets, might even score a touchdown. I don't think he's going to be involved a ton between the 20s, but I do think we're going to be bringing him in the red zone.
Real quick, there hasn't been enough about, remember, Justin Watson has been gone for a long time. He's been practicing all this week. We may see, it seems like Watson's going to be back in the fold. How much of him do you think we're going to see? Either one of you have a real input there?
I would assume not a ton.
Not much. Not much.
Maybe I'm
remember,
wrong.
he was leading the team in receiving yards when he went on the injured list. He was out.
It's going to be cold as hell. You want to rush that? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That sounds absolutely miserable. I get it. These are football players. They're absolute psychos. But dog, it's going to be frozen out there. Him and MVS do very similar things. I, for one, would say, Justin, if you don't have to get on the field, don't.
Two things real quick. First, I've seen the question pop up a few times. Patrick Mahomes is going to play. He is active, not on the inactive list. So just to clarify for those folks in the chat, he is playing. Second, on the Watson deal, so I don't think he really fits what the game plan should be for the Broncos because he's more of a man beater unless you're in like a cover 2, and then he can get deep. Most of his deep catches came against man coverage, but the Broncos run zone coverage over 76% of the time, yet simultaneously from Pro Football Focus give up the most yards per zone coverage target of any team in the league. So that suits Travis Kelce, it suits Rashee Rice, and those kinds of guys. I expect that's what the offensive game plan will be, especially just given the additional elements the Chiefs have to deal with. So I'm seeing Kelce, I'm seeing Rice. I think maybe Watson gets a handful of snaps, but I think they'll keep him on the sidelines for the most part until through the bye week.
We're going to see some beautiful 12 personnel today. I think that's going to be some beautiful red zone looks there.
Noah Gray's season, huh?
Noah Gray season, yeah.
No Blake Bell season. I'm going to be honest with you. No Blake Bell season. I'm so over this. Like, I was someone for the longest time that kept saying, you know what, though? I understand Blake Bell, and I get his role in the team. He's a great blocker. Dog. No, they force him into a role that he's not good at. He gets an opportunity, and he turns the ball over. I'm over it, man. I am so over this. Yeah. I would rather, you know what? I'll say it. I'll say it right now. I would rather have Anthony Sherman. Or at least a fullback. I'd rather have a fullback at this point than Blake Bell.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I wouldn't argue with that. It is silly when they call upon him to do something he's not equipped to do. And we can all see it. Joe, I want to go to you with your bets. Do you have some of our favorite bets? And what should we be looking out for before the game?
Absolutely. I love the Chiefs at -6.5. The line dropped a little bit. I think we win this game by at least a touchdown. If we aren't 1 of 5 in the red zone again, then we're going to win this game by 14 to 21 points and somewhere in that range. So I like the Chiefs at -6.5. And coinciding with that, I'm taking the Broncos under 19 points and Russell Wilson under 207 passing yards. Hasn't cleared 200 in 3 consecutive weeks. I don't see how he's going to do it in these conditions. And then secondly, I'm also going to be taking Travis Kelce over 77.5 receiving yards. Again, this matchup is perfect for the style of offense that we've been running through Kelce these last several weeks. He's had double-digit targets 3 straight weeks. I think he gets there. And I think this is going to wind up not only being a Rashee Rice game, he's a guy I'm targeting, but Isaiah Pacheco as well. He had 47 first-half rushing yards in week 6, and then we pretty inexplicably went away from him. So I think he's due for a solid game, both with those swing passes to get over 15.5 receiving yards and on the ground. He's at 64.5 rushing yards now. And then my little sprinkle, my bonus, is McCole Hardman to score a touchdown plus 900. I think we're going to use him in the red zone, particularly because we struggled so much there against them. So plus 900 odds, just a little sprinkle. Don't put the mortgage down on that. But I think you could find the end zone. But Kelce and fading the Broncos with the Chiefs covering the 6.5 are my favorite place.
I like it. I like the paprika going on there. That's good. That's good.
I will say, everyone who's listening right now, have you heard of SuperDraft DFS? SuperDraft hosts daily fantasy prop games where you can compete for a chance to win cash prizes. The game is simple. For each contest, you are given a pool of props for upcoming games. You pick whether each prop will be over or under the given total. You can choose up to 8 different props for a bigger win. If you want to join in on the action, we've got you covered. Join or sign up with the promo code ARROW today and receive a total match deposit up to $20. You will receive a free pick in your first game. Think of it like a free square in bingo or a free leg to a parlay. Using code ARROW when signing up now gets you these great rewards, but also lets you directly support our podcast. So make sure you use our promo code ARROW when you sign up. Offers available to new customers who are 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, and 21 plus in Massachusetts, and physically present in valid states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. Wow, it's different. They switched up on me.
Man, that was that's great. That was great.
I'm so used to the legal ad reads, and it got me.
That's great. That's great. We're seeing some latecomers here in the chat just still wondering about the same thing. Look, Patrick Mahomes is sick. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is playing. Even if he were not playing, let's be honest, and we rolled with Blaine Gabbert, no one should be afraid of this matchup. There is a time of your life where you look at a horse and you are worried about it. That's usually when you're 3 years old, you're standing outside the supermarket and it has a penny to insert inside so you can ride on it for a good 30 seconds before your parents take you back out to the car. That is the Broncos at this stage. 16 in a row is going to turn into 17 in a row. I can't see this going any other way. If so, we will be talking about the insanity of the game afterward because something insane happened in the 60 minutes of football we're getting ready to watch. Let's go to our official predictions, though, because maybe one of you guys have a surprise. Joe, I'll start with you. What's your prediction for today's game?
24-6. I think the defense completely shuts the Broncos down. I don't see how their offense is supposed to be effective, particularly in these kinds of conditions. And when we got a Minihue in the fold now as well, Nick Bolton or not, this defense is legit. They've proven it when he's been sidelined. And I think the offense has several long, sustained drives, the 10, 11, 12 play type of situations, get in the end zone in the red zone, and then we get a Butker field goal to put the icing on top.
Love it. Sterling.
Yeah, I'm going 27-13. Again, the Chiefs are just that much better, and I don't think it's a good matchup for the Broncos. I get the 2 times in 3 weeks, and that should make us nervous, and the AFC West opponents and all that stuff. But again, like you mentioned, just Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice against zone, Isaiah Pacheco going north-south, getting downhill. I do expect the interior offensive line to have a great game for Kansas City. I understand Mahomes is sick. I know we're all going to sit here and worry. We're going to say, why does he look pale as a ghost? Doesn't matter. He can sling the rock. It does not matter. He can sling the rock if he was on his deathbed. Mahomes is that magical, okay? He's an absolute wizard. And the defense, as we've talked about, even without Nick Bolton, they are so freaking talented. You add Charles Omenihu back into the equation, I'm all in. 27-13 Kansas City.
Love it. Love it. I'm going to go 26-10. You guys have already said everything that needs to be said about it. I think we're going to miss Nick Bolton a little bit in the middle. We'll be saying that after the game, even despite the win. But yeah. Hey, look, we're all predicting a big game. We hope to see a big game. More than anything, we hope Mahomes looks all right and is healthy after the game. For Sterling Holmes, for Joe Summers, for our producer, Richard Durante, my name is Matt Connor. We'll see you guys again at halftime. Both Sterling and Joe are going to be here at halftime. After the game, Patrick Allen, Matt Verderame, Joe Summers, Sterling Holmes will all be around for various parts of the post-game show where we'll hopefully be celebrating 17 in a row. 17. Just do anything 17 times and go, that's a lot. That's just a lot.
Great googly moogly.
Great googly moogly. All right. We'll see you guys at halftime.